Congressman Sean Duffy represents Wisconsin. He supports the proposal, and he joins us tonight. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Tucker. Thanks for having me.
So if the message of the last election was the middle class feels neglected and that an awful lot of Americans make less than their parents made, and if that's the core problem in American politics, and I think it probably is, how does this bill address that problem?
So two things. One, as you mentioned in your intro, we let more middle-income Americans keep more of their income, which is a great thing. We simplify the code so people don't have to go to their accountant and do itemized deductions. But I think the biggest part is we're in a global economy, Tucker. We have American businesses because our tax rates are too high. They leave our shores and they go to some foreign country for better tax rates. And so if we bring our corporate tax rates from 35 down to 20%, we're going to see American businesses actually come back home and bring their money back home and invest here in America. And when you have more investment, more business, that means more jobs for middle-income families with better wages, which is what this is all about, is how do we help the American family. And I think this package that Kevin Brady and our Ways and Means Committee put together is pretty awesome, considering the constraints that we had that the Senate gave us.
So let's just take one company, Apple. So it's close. Its valuation is nudging toward $1 trillion. It's going to get a much bigger rate cut than any middle-class family. But it doesn't employ that many people, actually. So if this tax plan is good for Apple, how exactly will Americans benefit from that? You're confident they will?
So let's walk through the Apple example then. So when Apple makes money overseas, they keep that profit overseas. They don't bring it back home. The reforms in this tax bill will say, Apple, all the money that you've made overseas, we're going to tax you, and you'll have 8 years to pay it off. But you'll be able to bring it home on day one. And so because we lower the rates and make it easier to bring profits home, we think Apple will invest more in America and offer more American jobs. One of the reasons why Apple isn't here is the tax code has incentivized Apple to actually leave America and go somewhere. This reverses that incentive and says, no, Apple, we want you to come back home and employ Americans in the innovative and creative jobs that make your products so wonderful. And by the way, Tucker, I haven't been able to get an iPhone 10 yet, but I'm working on it. I heard it's great.
I don't think it'll solve anyone's deeper problems. So let's say, let's just pick an example. Let's say my wife and I each make 45 grand a year. That puts us pretty solidly, I would say, in the middle class. We live in Schenectady, New York. So 90 grand combined family income. How does this change our picture?
So what I can do is, I got the numbers for, if you and your wife make $59,000, your tax rates will, your federal tax rates will go down by 75%. You'll pay 75% less than you do today. Okay. And your tax filing will be way easier. And what I find fascinating, Tucker, is Democrats who, you hear the mantra every day in your show, and you push back on it, but Democrats say, we need to not give tax breaks to the wealthy. We need to raise taxes on the wealthy and preserve breaks for the middle-income Americans. And what we've done in this bill is pretty simple. We have driven all of the tax breaks towards middle Americans, and actually we've taken some of the tax breaks away for the wealthiest Americans. And we've seen Democrats all of a sudden become uncomfortable because they like the talking point of saying, no tax breaks for the rich. But when we actually accommodate them, the rich live in their districts. They have the limousine liberals who sip their lattes and love to talk about their social justice. But when we accommodate them, all of a sudden they're like, whoa, we want to make sure you can write off the interest on $1 million home. Well, where I live in Wausau, Wisconsin, Tucker, we don't have any $1 million homes. You're wealthy if you have a $450,000 home. So, but they can't stand that we're accommodating them, and the left-wing nuts are going crazy that they might pay a little bit more. They're not going to get the benefit that most other Americans are getting in this tax reform package.
The Democratic Party is the party of the rich. I mean, that's factually true now. But what about the property tax write-offs that people in states with high property taxes, mostly, of course, blue states, liberal states, they can't write that off anymore under this plan, or to the degree that they could. So, how is that going to affect middle-class families?
So not to the same degree, but they can write up to $10,000 of their property taxes. Right. So, maybe your home, Tucker, you might not be able to write off the full boat, but a lot of people aren't paying, much more than $10,000. But also, you got to recognize that when you itemize, you now have gone from a $12,000 standard deduction to $24,000. So you have a whole group of people who won't have to itemize anymore. They'll have enough in the simplicity of the code to make it work for them. One thing I want to bring up to you, you've heard the New York, the high tax states, New York, California, New Jersey. They're concerned about their inability to write off their state and local taxes. Well, what's not oftentimes brought up is the fact that the alternative minimum tax actually doesn't let them write that stuff off anyway. So they're not really hurt by this code. They're just not helped as much as they would be if other people in low tax states.
Congressman, thank you for joining.